When we think of Queen, we often think of songs like We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You. These songs are often played at just about any sporting event you can think of. But what most people don't realize is just how many iconic songs Queen has created through the decades. Or that Queen started in the early 70s and was and still is one of the biggest bands in the world today. Their original lineup of members lasted 20 years, up until Freddie Mercury's death in 1991. Most bands break up or fall apart within the first few years of being together, even the successful ones. I know this as a local musician myself, that finding band chemistry that really works is something that doesn't just happen. It takes the right amount of work and passion by all of its members. As someone who has done music all of my life, Queen has become one of my biggest inspirations and has inspired me to write my music with authenticity and to be myself on stage. Queen kept its original lineup for decades despite the rumpy road it takes to become a world-famous band. With 15 albums, 700 live performances, and the honor of being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Queen's legacy continues to live on and inspire generations. Today I'm going to tell you a bit about the history, their music, and how Queen uniquely paved the way for rock and roll. So let's start at the beginning. In the 50s and 60s, what we consider classic rock today was just getting its start. Progressive rock was hitting the scene and becoming popular, and it was a time for experimentation. Progressive rock was all about combining styles. For Queen and their non-conventional members, this would be an open door to bring their own sound to what rock was becoming. So how exactly did Queen become Queen? What most people don't know is that Queen actually started out as a completely different band in the late 60s, and Freddie Mercury wasn't initially a part of it. In the book Is This the Real Life? The Untold Story of Queen, they talk about how Queen started. Formed by what would become Queen's lead guitar player Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor, the band Smile was born. It was a three-piece with Brian, Roger, and their then singer-slash-bassist Tim Staffel. Freddie Mercury wasn't actually a part of Smile at the time. However, he was one of their biggest fans and roadies. He would often give advice and had big marketing visions for Smile. The band was college-age, and while they all loved music, they were actually all going to different universities to become different things. Music was a side passion, yet they were still hoping for success with the songs they were writing. Eventually, Tim would decide to depart from Smile to pursue other musical opportunities. According to the book Queen as It Began, this opened the door for Freddie, who was struggling to find musicians he could play music with and who also understood his grandiose visions. He went from being their roadie to convincing Smile that he was the right fit to become their singer. Freddie soon became the lead singer and started marketing the band. He would style everyone, think of marketing ideas, and started working on a new name and logo. Smile would then turn into Queen. According to the biography Freddie Mercury, the definitive biography, this name was very camp and very androgynous. But the other members trusted Freddie and didn't pay too much attention to the name, which they did think was odd at first. Freddie wanted the band to be majestic and regal, and the name Queen fit that bill. Eventually, in 1971, the band would also find its bass player John Deacon. John Deacon filled the missing puzzle piece, and soon the band was starting to book different kinds of gigs. Though the rise to the top would be slow, the rise in creativity would be fast-paced. Queen's ingenuity and style is mainly credited to Freddie by spectators. However, it's important to note that the greatness of Queen lies in all of its members being able to songwrite. In the book Somebody to Love, The Life, Death, and Legacy of Freddie Mercury, it goes into detail on how every member contributed to the songwriting and creativity of every album. In some of their first albums, Queen was actually considered a heavy metal band. The rise to the top of the charts was actually slower for them than most people know. Their fourth studio album, A Night at the Opera, would bring one of the most iconic Queen songs to date, and really was a stepping stone into Queen breaking through into the charts. Queen fought for Bohemian Rhapsody to be a single. In the biography, Queen, the definitive biography, it's discussed how at the time, a song over 6 minutes was unheard of as single material. But Freddie made sure to give a copy of the song he wasn't supposed to have to a radio show host friend of his, and that friend played the song several times at his station, causing a major wave of mixed reviews of not only the song, but the album. It created a buzz of discussion, and Bohemian Rhapsody is to this day one of the biggest hits in rock history. Here are some fun facts about their iconic boundary breaking on the music scene. Songs like Bohemian Rhapsody and albums like Sheer Heart Attack, News of the World, and A Day at the Races all propelled Queen into total stardom. They made a music video for Killer Queen 7 years before MTV existed or music videos were even made. In the song I Want to Break Free, they dressed in drag, and the music video was banned in the US for being too scandalous. They started becoming major stars in other countries, and their music was being raved about by critics. Queen went from the heavy metal sound to a camp/glam progressive rock sound that was unique while also still trendy to their listeners. Every member wrote hits throughout their career. Here are some examples of different songs each member wrote. Brian May wrote We Will Rock You and Fat Bottom Girls. Roger Taylor wrote Radio Gaga and A Kind of Magic. John Deacon wrote You're My Best Friend and Another One Bites the Dust. And Freddie wrote Bohemian Rhapsody and Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Every member wrote hits, and that's a big reason why Queen was able to propel into stardom, and their songs are still alive today. It was the hard work and talent of all four musicians. Famous collaborations like Under Pressure featuring David Bowie furthered both Queen and David Bowie's careers, though they were both very big at the time. In A Brief History of Queen, a YouTube video by the channel The Beat Goes On, they talk about Queen having so much music that they were able to release another full album after Freddie's death, going from 14 albums to 15 albums with the original lineup. And to close that off, Live Aid in 1985 is considered one of the greatest live performances of all time, not just by Queen, but out of any rock musician. So here's how Queen left their mark. Dave Grohl, Lady Gaga, and members of Metallica, and even more, have all commented on being inspired by Queen. Dave Grohl even introduced Queen when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They influenced many genres outside of rock and brought a unique sound throughout their entire run. The legend of Freddie Mercury's charisma and charm is something that many artists of today cannot match, as his attitude and flair is unique to him. Something I've seen that's rare in the band circuit is musicians who truly think through their marketing, exposure, style, and branding. Freddie was always invested that from the beginning and didn't let anyone in the corporate music industry stand in the way of his success. This is a major part of why Queen was able to continue on and be successful for so many years. They were able to reinvent and rebrand themselves on their terms in a way that kept true to them without ever selling out. To wrap up the amazing life of Queen in less than 10 minutes, here's what we know about Queen's legacy. It lives on in other musicians' work and of course through their own. The band, which started as a heavy metal band, turned into their own genre, combining progressive, classical, glam, theatrical, and more subgenres into one iconic sound. Their sound is unique to them. When you hear a Queen song, you know who it is, from Brian's guitar playing to Freddie's unique 3-octave range. The band had hits for 20 years and remained at the top of the charts without ever being unoriginal. Their inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame comes with a legendary and inspirational status that few other rock bands can fully claim. They were androgyny before it was accepted, they were experimental when others wanted them to fit into a box, and they were all on the same level musically, with no one person doing all the work in the band. Queen's music makes history and innovation and charisma.